Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, good morning. So
Yeah.
we are just starting.
Yeah.
Okay. Today's topic is, as I had already indicated, do's and don'ts for a purposeful life. So far we have seen, first we saw what is the purpose of life as per our Shastras. Because we have to be very clear, it is not what somebody says, it is what our Shastras say. Then we also understood what are Shastras, what they consist of. And then we understood what is the law of karma. Now based on this, if any of us says, okay, now I understand what is the purpose of life, so now I want to go forward with that purpose, so what should I do or what should not I do? So it is very important to know, for a purpose as described in the Vedas or the Shastras, we have to orient ourselves towards that if we want to achieve that goal of moksha as prescribed in the Shastras. So first, if you are in simple terms, you should do in any given moment, you should do what is to be done and you should not do what you should not do. It's very simple. So there is no ambiguity on that. So in each situation there is something you need to do, it has to be done. Whether you like it or not, it's a different matter. But if it has to be done, it has to be done. Similarly, in any situation, there are something you should not do. Even if you want to do, it is not advisable. So you should not do. So this is the simple logic for do's and don'ts. But let us go further. Let us expand and see what the Shastras say. Now, if we look at yoga, yoga has actually got 8 steps. It is called Ashtanga Yoga. That is 8 steps of yoga. The 8 steps, the first 2 we don't learn or we don't hear about them, but they are the most important first two limbs of the 8 steps. The first one is called Yama and the second one is called Niyama. So Yamas and Niyamas are prescribed things which Yama is something which you should not do and Niyama is something which you should practice. Only then, with these 2, if you have incorporated, then you move to the third one, which is asana, and fourth one, which is pranayama. So normally we can, if we have those yama, niyama, if we are following, but we don't know consciously whether we are following that or not, then only we are supposed to start practicing asana and pranayama. And from that we move on to the next 3, which ends with samadhi. The 5th one is called pratyahara, which is drawing your senses inward. Then dharana. Dharana means focusing on a point. Then comes dhyana, which is meditation. And the last step of Ashtanga Yoga is called samadhi, which is a state. Unless somebody goes into that state, they may not be able to explain. If somebody goes into that state, it is not possible to explain to others what that state is. But probably it's a state where your mind is completely undisturbed by other thoughts. You are completely with yourself. You are not disturbed by any other thoughts. But it's a process. So first, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. This is the process of yoga. The 8 steps. Now let us focus on the first 2. Yama. Yama means to restrain. Now what you should not do is what is clearly given if you want to practice yoga and reach the higher levels. First is called ahimsa, which is non-violence. Non-violence doesn't mean just physical violence, it also means mental violence. Any kind of violence is not to be practiced at all, which is normal. I mean, everybody knows that violence is not good, but a situation may come where you need to be violent because if you have to protect yourself or you have to protect your country, you need to resort to violence. But that is only if you are forced to. And you should not stop because I should be non-violent, so I should not do this. If it calls for even violence, has to be practiced at a particular moment, given in a given situation. Next is satya. So you should not speak lies, which is again all of us know. So lie is something which is not advisable for anyone at any moment. But again, certain times for the good of everyone, sometimes you have to speak a lie. All of you must have heard about the Mahabharata incident where Yudhishthira, who is supposed to be the embodiment of truth, he spoke a lie. Okay, it can be taken as he spoke in such a way that it can be interpreted as a lie or not a lie. But he had to say something which he normally wouldn't have done, because in that situation it called for something like that for the right people to win. So sometimes you have to do that. The third one is called asteya, which is non-stealing. You should not steal. So that is also very obvious. There is nothing that we don't know. So this is something which again all of us are aware. And stealing doesn't mean it is limited to taking somebody's property or the money or anything. Even stealing time is also equally bad. You give a time to somebody and then you don't meet that, you are stealing somebody's time. So we don't take that as stealing, we just take it for granted. But when you say stealing, it also encompasses everything where you deprive somebody of something. It need not be in terms of material or anything, it could be in terms of time also. Then the next one is called aparigraha, which means you should not take bribes. So this is also all of us know, it is not that we don't know. So most of these things are inbuilt into our system. We know what is right and what is wrong, but many don't practice because it is convenient for them to do certain things for their own benefit. The fifth one is called brahmacharya. You can call it a celibacy, because celibacy is required if you have to take your mind to those levels where the mind is completely calm. So it is also one of the prescribed yamas. Next comes Niyama. Niyama means some things which you have to practice regularly. First is called shaucha, cleanliness. Cleanliness is a must for all of us, but cleanliness is again not limited to the body. Even if you have a bath daily, you are taking care of the body, but cleanliness around you, cleanliness of the mind also is equally important. Your mind should be as clean as your body. Even if you have a bath daily, if your mind is not clean, then you are not clean. And keeping your surroundings clean. So all these are required for the mind to, because ultimately we are looking at how to elevate the mind to a higher level. The next one is called santosha, means contentment. If we are content with what we have, the mind will be less disturbed. If we are not content, the mind will always be looking to satisfy whatever it wants. So if you are okay, today I have this, I have a Maruti car, I should have a Benz. So your mind is always working, okay, how do I next get the Benz? Then once you get the Benz, probably you're looking for a Ferrari. Just giving an example. So if you're content, okay, I have a Maruti, it meets my requirement, I am happy. If I get a Benz later, I'll also be happy. But I'm not going to worry about getting that Benz today. If the situation comes, okay, if I get a Benz, good for me. If not, I'm fine with my Maruti. So that is what is called as contentment. Then comes tapas, austerity. We should practice certain austerities to bring some discipline in our lives, because a purposeful life means it is a disciplined life. Without discipline, you cannot achieve anything. So it is a must to have some kind of austerities to enforce that discipline in our lives. The next one is called Swadhyaya, whereas study of our scriptures or shastras. So we need to spare some time every day, whatever time we can spare, to study the shastras which have been given to us by our forefathers. And last one is called Ishvara Pranidhana, which means worship of the Almighty. We need to acknowledge the higher power which is governing all of us, and in terms of some worship, either going to the temple or doing some pujas at home, we acknowledge the presence of a power which is guiding all of us. So these form the do's and don'ts of a life which, if you want to orient towards that goal of achieving moksha or freedom, these are the minimum things we need to do. Otherwise, if we don't follow this, then the chances of reaching that goal are less. Now the Shastras have also prescribed a few things which has to be done daily. So they are called as Pancha Mahayajnas. 5, you can call yajna as a ritual or some duty, whichever way you take it, which have to be done every day without fail. Because ultimately these are all oriented to preparing our mind for something higher. So first one is called as a Brahma Yajna. Brahma Yajna is acknowledging the seers and the rishis who have given all this knowledge. So we need to study or chant something to acknowledge. You chant some mantras, like somebody chants Gayatri mantra or somebody else chants some other mantra every day. It is acknowledging something which they have left for us, for our good. The next one is called Deva Yajna. Again, it is related to worship. We worship the gods every day. You can do some puja, or you can just offer something. You can just offer flowers, water, whatever you can, just to give this thing that yes, there is a higher power to us which is guiding us all the time. So we have to acknowledge that. The next one is called Pitra Yajna. Now all of us here are here because of our parents, and our parents are here because of their parents. So it's a lineage which is continuing, and all of them have contributed to whatever we are today. So we need to acknowledge our parents and our forefathers. So every day, that is why we make it a habit to keep some food for the crows, who we think are the ones who convey these things to our forefathers. So you keep water, you keep some food to acknowledge the role played by our pitras, as we call them, the forefathers. The fifth one is called Bhuta Yajna, which is taking care of the surroundings. The fourth one. Bhuta Yajna is you take care of other beings around you. You feed some animals, you have some dogs around you, you have, even for that matter, in our culture certain things are built in. For example, we draw this kolam. It used to be, now I don't know what material there is. Earlier it used to be rice powder. So it is meant for the ants. So one thing is, the ants are fed so that they don't enter your house. So we draw it around at the entrance of the house. So they are also happy. We are also not disturbed by them. Similarly, whatever beings, we keep water for the birds. We feed any other beings who are around us, cows or dogs, whichever beings. So it is a must, because we are all part of this nature. Everyone plays their role. So we have to acknowledge the role of each of this, because without them we also may not exist in the way we do. It's a chain. So each one has an impact on the other. The final one is called Manusha Yajna, which is for fellow beings. For fellow beings, we need to either give food, or in whatever way we can help somebody. We should do that every day. In fact, they say, in those days they always used to cook a little more, so that whoever comes, first you have to share with that person. Otherwise they say the food becomes poison. If you take food without sharing with anybody, it is supposed to turn into poison. So this is a must, and these are rituals which have to be done every day. It is not something which you do whenever you feel like. So it has to be a part of our lives. These Pancha Mahayajnas are part of our daily rituals. Because without these, we cannot progress further in our goal. Otherwise it will become, you are taking care of yourself. I am happy if all my needs are met. It doesn't bother me if somebody is suffering, or somebody doesn't have food, or somebody doesn't have water. It is their problem. If we have that mindset, definitely we cannot progress towards that goal. Because ultimately, everything is one and the same. So the knowledge that we actually are looking for, that Aham Brahmasmi, as they say it, I am that Brahman which is there in everything. So by taking care of others, actually we are taking care of ourselves. It is not that we are different from others. That is what we are acknowledging. So these 5 yajnas form our part of our daily routine. And there are some periodic yajnas also which have to be done. For example, Shraddham. Shraddham has to be done every year for the deceased, be it parents or grandparents, whoever. Every year it is a must. And Shraddham has to be done in the proper way. There are a lot of people say, okay, on that day I go and give food to some orphans or some orphanage, I have paid money, or some temple I do some puja. Good. All those things are good. There is nothing wrong in doing that. But that is not compensating for the Shraddham activity you have to do. That extra thing you do is good. Absolutely no problem on that. But what is to be done as Shraddham, that has to be done by you. You cannot offload or subcontract to somebody and say, okay, you do that, I will get the benefit. It doesn't happen that way, because the law of nature knows your attitude. You cannot run away from that. You can probably, your fellow beings, you can fool by saying I am doing this or I am doing that. It is for, it's not going to help, because ultimately if you want to benefit, you have to do that on your own. So these Shraddham, and we also do what is called as Tarpanam on every new moon day. We offer water to the ancestors. So these are all rituals which have to be done, which were all prescribed, but unfortunately we have moved away from our whatever has been prescribed in our Shastras, which people used to do regularly. But now, if we feel, okay, I need to achieve that goal of moksha or freedom, then definitely I have to follow most of this, because that's how our whole system has been designed. You do all these things as a preparation towards moksha. Now the next question is, okay, if I do all this, will I get moksha? No. This is not going to give moksha, but this is going to prepare your mind for moksha. So all these things which are do's and don'ts that we have seen so far, they are preparing the mind so that when the mind is ready, the knowledge which you get will take root. For example, if we need to sow something, if we just come and throw the seeds in the ground, will they sprout? Chances are very less, maybe a few. You throw 1,000 seeds, maybe by chance 1 or 2 may. So you have to prepare the ground. You first, make this thing. You make this thing in the ground, water it properly. Then you plant the seed, and then you water it, nurture it. That's how the plant grows. So without preparation, we cannot plant anything. Similarly, preparing the mind is the most important process. Overall, you must have heard different types of yoga. There is karma yoga, there is jnana yoga, there is bhakti yoga, there is people give different types of yoga for practice. But ultimately, there are only 2 types of yoga. One is called karma yoga and one is called jnana yoga. Karma yoga encompasses everything that you do. Whatever action you do comes under karma yoga. So all the other yogas are also part of karma yoga. Now what is karma yoga? It is a yoga of action. But what kind of action? Every action will produce a result, no doubt. If we are attached to the results, then that yoga will not help us to progress. Yoga should be such, your action should be such that whatever results it is producing, you accept that gleefully, gladly. So that is the attitude with which we do any activity. Whatever be the activity we do, if we do with that attitude, definitely that activity will produce much better results than any activity. Even if it's good, you do it, even if you expect something, it's fine. But if you are really looking for something beyond the normal, like your mind to reach a level where it is not disturbed by anything, then if you do any activity with that attitude of karma yoga where you accept the results, you do, because we cannot do any activity without expecting a result. It will be meaningless. There has to be an expectation, but accepting whatever comes is karma yoga. You cannot say, oh, I did all this, but I didn't get what I expected. That kind of, you can hear a lot of people saying that. That means the attitude is not karma yoga attitude. So karma yoga is all about the attitude. It prepares your mind for further growth. Now, how to get moksha? That is only possible through knowledge. Because the entire problem is because of ignorance. We don't know our true nature. So how do we know that? How do we remove ignorance? It's only through knowledge. So knowledge, actually you don't need to do anything, but you need to understand, that's all. In karma yoga you have to do. Knowledge happens. For example, if you want to gain knowledge, there are three things that are important. Suppose you are looking at say a cell phone. Now, if you have never seen a cell phone, if you look at it, you will not know what it is. But if you know what is a cell phone, your eyes are focusing on the cell phone, and if your eyes alone are focusing and your mind is not behind it, you will not know what is a cell phone. But the cell phone is in front of you, your eyes are focusing on it, and your mind is behind the eyes. Knowledge just happens in an instant. You don't need anything. You know it's a cell phone, that's all. It's a cell phone. There's no, you don't have to think, oh, could it be this, could it be that. So knowledge means it happens in an instant. But for it to happen, you need these three things. You need an object. You need the appropriate sense organ. Same thing you can say with sound or touch. You need that particular sense organ oriented with that object, and then you need your mind to be oriented with those two. When these three are in one line, knowledge happens instantly. So now here we are looking for self-knowledge. Now how do we achieve that? The object is the self. I want to know myself. Now, what is the medium through which you know? What are the eyes or the ears to achieve that knowledge? That is the Shastra. And then you need the mind, as usual. So when these three are in one line, knowledge happens. So we have to take the help of the Shastras to understand ourselves. Because there are two types of knowledge. One is called external knowledge, we call it as Aparavidya, and the other one is the knowledge of the self, which is called as Paravidya. Both are equally important. Your external knowledge is a must for you to survive in this world. So whatever knowledge we gain is mostly to take care of our day-to-day things, because without the external knowledge we cannot survive. Whatever we studied, whatever this thing is to ensure that we have a comfortable life. We all studied engineering so that we will get a good job, so that we will have a comfortable life. But beyond that, that knowledge is not going to go with us when we leave this world. But that knowledge was important because whatever we are today, in whatever comfort and whatever we have achieved, is because of that knowledge. So you cannot say that knowledge is useless. But beyond a point, that knowledge is not going to help you to get moksha. So you need to know what you are. For that, you need to use the Shastras as the eyes and your mind behind the Shastras, so that the knowledge happens. But this process takes a regular study. It is not like we studied 5 years, we studied in engineering college. We could have just taken some books, one book here, one book there, electrical engineering or some thermodynamics or whatever books. Why we could not have studied engineering just by reading those books? Because it is not a systematic approach. You may gain some knowledge here, you may gain some knowledge there, but you can't call yourself an engineer if we had not gone through that. So we went to a college, and we went to a reputed college, because all of us at that time we had an idea that this college gives the possibly the best facilities in terms of faculty and other infrastructure, which will help us to gain this knowledge, help us to get a degree, which will help us to get a job. So that was the aim for us at that time. Now, for this knowledge to happen, it requires systematic study. It is not just we all listen to many people talking, we listen to this person, everybody sounds good. I am not saying anybody is good or bad, but it is not systematic. We just listen to somebody, this person was saying this, it was good. Then we listen to somebody else, he was also talking something good. It's nice to hear, but if we are firm on our goal, it has to be systematic. Like you have to join a college for engineering, all of us we did that. Similarly, you have to find a teacher who will teach you in a systematic manner, which will take you towards that goal. So there is a process of, we call it as Prasthanatrayam in Vedanta. So we take up a systematic way of learning. In the first beginner, as a first phase, we study a few texts which gives us the basic idea. For example, even Bhagavad Gita, or there are many other texts which give a basic idea about what we are. In the next stage, we take up 10 Upanishads for further study to enhance our knowledge, to give that knowledge more depth. And then the final step towards this, we study what is called as Brahma Sutra. It's a sutra literature, again about Brahman, which is about yourself. So all these are, the subject matter in all these are the same. It is you. But it is approached in different ways, so that all of us, each of us may have a different idea. We may not, what one person can understand, the same approach may not work with another person. So in another text, the approach is different, but the subject is the same. So we need to do a systematic study to achieve that goal. So Karma Yoga to prepare the mind, and Jnana Yoga to ultimately achieve that goal. It's a process. So whoever feels they need to achieve that goal has to orient themselves in this particular track. We have been moving in a track. Now if we feel, okay, now I am sure this is the goal I want, we have to orient ourselves towards this track. So that is why all these do's and don'ts, like we started off, are very important. Because without knowing the do's and the don'ts, we will not be able to start anywhere. And then we need to study in a systematic manner for a length of time. There is no under a traditional guru. So all these are conditions which are a must if you really want to achieve that goal. So you need to study systematically, you need to study for a length of time, and you need to study under a very knowledgeable guru. Now, how do you find that? You have to trace the lineage. So, gurus are the real gurus, the ones who are following a lineage. That is why we always, when I start, the starting prayer is Sadashiva Samarambham. So, the first teacher is Lord Shiva. Then we come down, Shankaracharya Madhyamam. Somewhere down the line, Adi Shankara is supposedly acknowledged as one of the great teachers who has contributed so much. And then Asmadacharya, that means my guru. I acknowledge my guru. So we trace the lineage from the source, which is Shiva, down to Shankaracharya and then to your guru. So if we follow a lineage, we cannot go wrong. There are a lot of gurus, there are a lot of modern gurus, so to say, who have their own following. I am not here to criticize them, or I am not saying they are right or wrong. What I am saying is, if you follow a guru who is in a lineage which has been there for, which can be traced back for a length of time, the chances of you going wrong are very limited. Because you will find suddenly somebody comes, for some time that person is very popular and people listen to him, then suddenly something goes wrong and you lose faith in everything. You lose faith in the teaching, you lose faith in the guru, everything you lose faith. So then the whole process was a waste. If you follow a traditional teaching system, the chances of this happening is very limited. So it is up to us to find that right source so that we achieve that goal. So the goal, once it is clear, this is my goal, then these do's and don'ts come into the picture. So all the Yamas and Niyamas, then the Pancha Mahayagnyas, all these form part of our journey. And there is no time frame. Like I said, once you start, you can be rest assured that you are in the right path. Then it doesn't matter if you are able to achieve in this life nothing like that, because here and now, if you get that is what, because you don't know next when you are going to get a human life. So let us utilize this. But like again, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, even if you don't happen to get it this, if you are oriented towards this, you will start from where you let off in your next birth. So that is the assurance he gives. So at least, okay, all this trouble I have taken, or whatever way I have studied and all this, is not going to go waste. It's there, going to be with you. You are going to carry it again. If you get it if the goal is achieved in this particular life, nothing like that. But if you have started the process, it doesn't matter when you are going to get it, you will ultimately get it. So this is what was the topic today. So I hope there are some takeaways for you, and we'll have a question session after this. Thank you.